Today I'm talking to Lauren Holleran with Sotheby's International Realty in Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts. She's a top real estate agent in her market and in all of Sotheby's. Lauren is a graduate of Exeter and Dartmouth and a 4-time All-American lacrosse player and former member of the U.S. lacrosse team. She talks about competition, failure, overcoming failure, and how she has turned failure into opportunities and how she has used failure to ignite success. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast. So excited today. We have Lauren Holleran with the office. She's in Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts with Sotheby's International Realty. Lauren, we're so excited to have you today. Thank you for coming.
I am so excited to be here. It's fun to hang out with you. We just got to be together in person a week or two ago.
Yes.
And so nice to do this, too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So we were in Austin at Jay Cooper's event at the T&E, and we will be with Bill Fandel and friends in Santa Barbara. So
yeah, just a couple weeks away, 3 weeks away.
So as everybody knows, Lauren, you were on the podcast because you are one of the top agents in the country and in Boston, and you work Boston and Cambridge, or how should we position that?
Boston is Boston's the greater market. I really focus in Cambridge, though.
Okay.
Our team does work in Boston
exactly.
too.
Well, and that's I think of you for both.
Right.
So great. So tell us a little bit about how you got in the business. What made you crazy enough to be a real estate agent?
I feel like it's so funny. Everyone in real estate has these crazy backstories where they're like, I was a English literature PhD, and then I don't know. I don't have one of those. It's what I wanted to do. I was a senior. I remember I was a senior at Dartmouth College and was out with my parents and a friend of theirs, senior winter, I think. And the friend asked, so what are you planning to do after graduation? I sell real estate. In my parents' faces, oh, hell no. That's not what we gave you a liberal arts education for.
Wow.
And so I dutifully did a whole bunch of other things first, but ultimately, found my way back to it and started, 14 years ago, and I've loved it since the first day.
So I have to ask you, how did you know? Because so many people, I was the opposite. I did not. I was like, I am never going to be one of those people,
right?
One of those big-haired, and I love it now. But how did you know that it was such a great career, and how did you know you wanted to do it?
I think partially, my dad has always been very passionate about real estate, so open houses were what we did on Sundays. We would just cruise around, and we'd be in random towns, and he would be like, oh, I heard there's an open house down the street. Let's go have a look. We called it woozling, and we loved it, and for no good reason, just talking about the relative merits of houses. So that was one part of it as a kid. I think I really got the bug for looking at real estate. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, and the best realtor in town always played Santa Claus on the porch of the inn.
Oh my God, yeah.
So he would sit on the porch of the inn in December, and little kids would come sit on his lap, and he was you could not tell it was this guy Roger. And he would say, "What's your name, little girl?" He'd say, "Lauren Holleran," and he would go, "Oh, Rope Ferry Road, nice chimney at your house," and he knew all.
That was it. It was embedded subconsciously as a child because it was Santa Claus. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Right? Santa Claus and real estate.
Yeah.
And we knew that there were usually fake Santa Clauses, but I remember being absolutely 100% confident that this was the real Santa Claus because he could tell everyone where they lived. And only later, found out the game, and then maybe it's the Santa Claus who can deny Santa Claus.
Exactly.
And So yeah, and then I think the other part of it that I really value is having grown up in a small town. I moved to Cambridge in '96, so about 22 years ago. And I had never anticipated wanting to live in a city, but I absolutely love it. And we kind of joke that my selling real estate is just my way of making it a small town, because with every day and year that goes by, you know more people, you know more places, you know every street, you know where to find the resident parking, it just really makes the whole place feel like a tight-knit little community, and it's more like a small town. I love it.
That's so true, because I'm from South Georgia, a small town of 20,000, selling real estate in Atlanta, and I would have to say it's the same thing. I love that. I love to hear that. So I want to hear from you, what in this business, going through 15 years, you've had your ups and downs, what has been the biggest piece of advice that you have heard?
Okay, so this was even before I started. We have a family friend, Lois Cunion, who is a genius, has sold a ton of real estate in her day, still sells a ton of real estate. She's in Boston. And she said to me, before I even got started in the business, she goes, Lauren, I have one piece of advice for you. Buyers, they come and go. Sellers, they come and go. But the brokers stay. She goes, Lauren, don't piss off the brokers. And it's such a good piece of advice. I value it always, because what I think so much of what helps me be successful is my relationship with the brokerage community. We have some phenomenal brokers, and they're people that I'd love to have as my friends, really positive business contacts. You want people to be glad to see you coming, and that doesn't mean you prioritize the broker relationship over representing your client, but all of this can be done in a nice, friendly way. And then people want to do deals with you, and they help you. They give you information, which is really
valuable to our clients.
Yeah, that's the currency of what we work in, is having the good information. And I see brokers who come in and are just tough to work with, and it's very short-sighted, I think, because it's the same brokers over and over again, and you want to respect and take care of those relationships.
I love that piece of advice. I think we hear it a lot, but the way you just position it, or the way your friend Lois said that, clients come and go, and not that clients aren't valuable and they're our first priority, but in the big scheme of things, the brokers stay. And also, I'm embarrassed to admit, it took me a while to figure that one out. I just was like, yeah, agents are competition. There's a million of them. You come into this business hearing it's a cutthroat business. Nothing could be further. Yes, they're cutthroat things, but ultimately, some of my best friends like you and the people I've connected with the most and enjoy the most are other real estate agents. And besides the fact that the value of that relationship can get transferred to our clients when we do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing to bear in mind. Sometimes sometimes I don't think it sounds great saying like prioritize brokers, but in fact, those strong relationships help our clients ultimately, because those are the brokers who want to work with us. We want to work with them, and we really, it helps our clients put deals together.
And you know what you make me think of, and you would think I would talk less today with my whole hoarse voice thing going on, but apparently it's not holding me back, because I love this topic. But I think about, no. But you were talking about, small town, even a big city becomes a small town. Atlanta has become a small town. And when people ask me about other brokers, if I love them, and I will rave about how great they are. And if I don't, I may just not say anything. But it's just for our own business to have that relationship, because the first thing somebody says when another agent says, I'm a real estate agent, they're going to say your name, and it's just one more building block for our reputation, for our business. It's so not the way people would think of our business, and yet it's so valuable and so important.
Yeah, and nobody wants to hear you slag another broker, right? Mm-hmm. No consumer does. It just doesn't. But
my point was when they say great things about you to consumers, but on the other end, absolutely. Like anytime you have something bad to say somebody else is really just saying something about you. Right? Like so let's just not go there, or let them say it let them display it for themselves. Absolutely, especially in our business. So I think everybody, all of our listeners should know, if you didn't listen to the intro that I gave before the interview, that Lauren is a incredibly successful athlete prior to, yes, or you were, but you still are. You still hold that level of success. It just happened in the past. Anyway. So you were a successful athlete. You were a lacrosse player, an American lacrosse player for Dartmouth College, as well as you were on the United States Women's League. So you have an incredible experience with competition, with teams, with all of that good stuff. So that being said, give us, what do you think? I love the topic of failure, and I feel like a lot of people are afraid of it. And I know you have such a great grasp of giving perspective on that. Give us a little bit of perspective on yours and some stories you could share.
Yeah, I love the topic of failure because how else do we get better? If you just have success after success after success, it feels good, but you're not learning much along the way. And it's really those moments where something's gone terribly wrong and you failed that you have to collect yourself and figure out, what do you take from that and how do you move forward? I had this after college when I was playing on the U.S. team. I was coaching at Harvard. I was the assistant for this woman, Carol Kleinfelder, who was a legend in women's lacrosse. And she had sent me on a long recruiting trip. So I'd gone for 2 or 3 weeks down to New Jersey and North Carolina and Long Island and all over the place, trying to find the top 10 kids that we would recruit that year to come to Harvard. So high school seniors mostly. And I had put this extensive video together of the 10 kids I had met. And this was 1996 or 97. It was not easy to shoot video on your iPhone. I had this thing I'm holding on my shoulder. Yeah. And then and then came back to Cambridge, spliced the whole thing together. This was tens of hours of work that went into putting this 5-minute video piece together for Carol to review, to decide out of the 10 kids that I found, which 5 did we want to really prioritize. And so we went through it, and so she starts watching it, and after about 30 seconds, she turns it off. She goes, "What is this?" And I said, "Carol, this is what you sent me down the Eastern Seaboard to go do. I found these 10 kids. These are the kids. Watch and see which ones you like." She goes, "Okay." So she keeps watching a little bit more, and she turns it off again. She goes, "What is this?" And I said, "I don't know what's hard about this. These are the kids that I think we should recruit." And she goes, "They're doing all good things." And I said, "I know. I spent hours and hours going through the videos and finding, so you can see their strengths, and you'll see there's about 45 seconds on each kid, and just have a look. I'm really proud of this piece of work that I've done." So I pressed play. I'm getting mad at her, and she starts watching 10 more seconds. She turns it off. She goes, "This is terrible." And I said, "What's terrible?" She said, "Every kid can do some good things, and these kids are doing great things. But here's what I want to see. I want you to go back to the videos for each of these kids. I want you to find a mistake, an error that they made in the game, and then I want to see the next 30 seconds. And she said, "That's how I recruit."
Brilliant. Yeah.
See a failure, see what they do after that. And I went back, I did as she asked, and it was fascinating to see who the kids were that we ended up recruiting. Different than I would have thought. And it was all about resilience, response to failure. And you'd see some kids, shoulders slump, their work power goes down a little bit. Other kids just fired up. And I think in my business, that's one of the best lessons I've ever learned. Day to day, when something bad happens, I think, all right, here's the start of my 30 seconds. What am I going to be? What kind of person am I going to be? What kind of athlete am I going to be? And then you just grind. So the moment the failure happens is when I think, it's kind of exciting. It's power.
This is my chance. Failure is opportunity. Failure is opportunity. It makes me think about, so the mastermind we were in together where we met in Santa Barbara, we were in a room full of top brokers, and I remember I think there were 40 people in the room, and I thought, I really, because I spent a lot of time with different agents everywhere, and we spend a lot of time with agents doing deals all the time, and I thought in that room of people, it was almost immediately profound to me that I thought, you know what, the common denominator, like everybody's personality was so different. You've got people who are quiet, people who are shy, people who are crazy, people who are conservative, people who are athletes, people who've never, whatever. But the one common denominator was the enthusiasm behind every person. And I remember when there were no, like, the discussion of problems wasn't, like, there was no discussion of problems. Anytime it was problems, it was literally like, it wasn't stated, but you could just feel it in the room that every challenge that we would speak about was speaking of an opportunity. It was conversations about opportunities in everything. That's all anyone in that room can see. And when you tell that story, it literally makes me think of the same way that the best of the best agents is. Our job and our value is that people are presenting us with problems. If it were easy, we wouldn't be here. Zillow would, and that'd be all there was. But because it isn't, we get the opportunity to fix it. And listening to shows like this, we get all kinds of ideas to do it. So what were you going to say?
It's so true. I was just going to say, one of the things I love best about having a team and being a team leader is that when my team members are actively leading an engagement on their own, you know, working with a buyer or a seller, my role becomes just a fixer. So the only real interaction I have is when there's a knotty problem that needs to be unwound. And I totally didn't anticipate how rewarding that would be. And you sort of think of these problems that make your stomach sink, and gosh, there's an assessment coming up that no one knew about, and who's going to communicate it to the client, or we're 3 days from closing and the basement just flooded in the house they're buying, and how do you do it? And I actually find it such a rewarding part of the job is being able to bring sort of a calm, matter-of-fact approach and feeling confident that anything can be unwound and sorted out, and being able to see the client suddenly like understand that there's no need to freak out. There are solutions here. There's a range of options, and we'll get you through it.
Exactly.
And I think it's such a fun part about being a team leader.
Exactly. It's just perspective on the problem, and with 14 years of experience, you've got lots of stories to tell and lots of solutions to bring people. So you are in, I'm sure, I mean, in Cambridge and Boston, you're in an incredibly competitive market. I think it's probably one of the most difficult markets to break into anywhere. What is it that gives you your edge over the competition?
I think initially it needs to be said that we're so lucky to operate in this market. I think it's similar to your market, where there are lots of nice houses, good price points, lots of transition in and out. I think it's the same in Atlanta, right? People coming and going. We have in Cambridge and Boston, we have a ton of schools and hospitals. So both of those, so Harvard, MIT, MGH, Beth Israel, all these world-class institutions create a lot of churn. So people coming and going. So I feel incredibly fortunate that we're in this environment with a lot of deal flow and a good price point. So underlying everything, I think any broker needs to realize there's plenty of business to go around, right? I don't need to take all of your business to have a successful business myself. So I think, first of all, I really like to focus on the fact that we have clients. Like, with clients, we don't need to think about the competition, because if we're servicing our client base really, really well, that's going to grow. And people joke with me that sometimes I have I don't want to say it's not lazy, but a sort of efficient approach to things where I want to get the most bang for my buck. It's like the 80-20 rule. Like, where can I spend 80% of my, or I guess I think about it in terms of our sphere. There's 20% of my sphere where I'll put almost all my attention, and we'll get 80% of our business from that. And whether it's through referrals or so I guess that's number one, is really knowing who your sphere is and who the connectors are within that sphere, who are the people who are likely to refer you business, and just really develop those relationships. You don't need to be everything to everyone, but be really good for the select few. Maybe it's 50 people, maybe it's 100 people, but be really good for them. And then, a number of years ago, sort of when I was newer in the business, I was getting pretty frustrated. I knew I was good at it. I knew I had technical skill at putting deals together, negotiating, communicating, all of that. But I felt like I just wasn't necessarily getting the calls from people when they were going to sell, because I'm sure, like you, we're in a market that's filled with good agents. Right? I'd happily list my house with 5 or 6 agents. So I sort of set about thinking, like, how do you differentiate yourself then, if that's true? And one sort of conclusion I came to was what we get out of listings is content, right? Mm-hmm. And that's content that you get to push forward to try to get more listings, try to get more buyers. So not only if you put money into making your listings absolutely gorgeous and your marketing absolutely gorgeous, that's going to stand out, and you get to reuse it again and again and again in marketing yourself going forward. I think a lot of brokers are scared to spend money. I'm not. I think that our commission, people think the commission that's what they get paid to do.
They're spending money, yeah.
But it's not. Your commission is, yes, part of it is what you get paid to do your job, but part of it's your marketing budget. Part of it's to pay your administrator. Like, people get a little greedy about thinking they deserve all of their commission. And you hear these podcasts, not yours, but some other real estate podcasts where people fetishize, like, having a high margin and how low you can keep your expenses. I think realtors need to loosen up the purse strings a little bit and really pay to make things look excellent. I work with a phenomenal interior design photographer. Now, he costs probably 5 times more than what a realtor usually spends on professional photography. We take a whole day. There's a whole lighting setup. But the outcome is fantastic. Same for video. And anyway, I think spending money on marketing is well spent, because you get to reuse it again and again and again.
Exactly. Well, it's back to, it's your product. Why would you skip on that? And I love what you said about the commission. I think there's almost a sense of pride or success out of keeping your margins so high in our business, but that might also keep your client base and your true level of success quite low, which in the long run does not pay off. And it's not, it's not. Suzanne Perkins teases me because I'm like, well, it's fun. She's like, and did you make money, Jere? I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm making money, but you can do both, Suzanne. And I know she knows that, but like, it was fun too. I made money and it was fun, but that's the more fun something is, it's funny how it also becomes more lucrative.
Yeah. So, you do a really good job.
Exactly. No, go ahead.
Another thing about just sort of elements of success.
Yes.
I think credibility in the market is huge, and credibility with clients. And I think the route to credibility is twofold. One is knowing the numbers. So really understanding the dynamics of your market and being able to speak to it, being able to say, hey, our inventory's down a little bit so far year to date, but our average sale price is up. I don't know what your market's like, but you can't swing a dead cat in Cambridge without hitting someone with like a PhD from Harvard or MIT who wants to discuss market dynamics with you. And you've got to be able to meet them, maybe not at their PhD economics level, but have something credible to say. And I feel really passionate about offering clients information, so not just data. I think a lot of realtors focus on sharing data. And there's a big difference between data and information. Data is the raw stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyone can give you an Excel spreadsheet full of numbers, but what does it mean? So being able to take those numbers, craft a story. I love data visualization. So being able to show numbers graphically in a way that you're going to have the most success when your clients come to their own conclusions on pricing or price adjusting, or time on market. And what you want to be able to do is paint such a compelling picture that they come to the right conclusion on their own, and you're not, telling them exactly what to
Gosh,
do.
that's so well put. I think people come with the perspective of, this is what you have to do, now let me tell you why. And I think it's especially the more educated, which you have a very educated sphere in Boston, that's pretty much it, is you've got to present the information and educate them and let them and when they're educated, and it's the biggest difference. So just, no, I love that. That's the story. People love, what is it? People love stories and magic. Seth Godin, I think, is the guy that talks about that. Like, the stories and magic, the numbers our job is to help translate what those mean so they understand them. But what were you going to say about,
Well, there's this great quote by, today, and it's something
wait,
like,
say that again. You broke up for a minute. Who was the quote by? Say that one more time.
Sorry, Jim Barksdale, who
Okay.
was the CEO of Netscape, and he said something like, "If we have data, let's look at data, but if all we have are opinions, let's use mine." And I feel like that's every seller everywhere, right?
Yes.
If all there are opinions, well, your seller probably has a pretty strong opinion about the value of his or her house. But if you have data, they're more than happy to use it. And by data, I really do mean information well presented.
Yes.
That's one half of it, of the credibility, I think, is the numbers, understanding them and being able to communicate them. But the other half of credibility, I think, is the stories. And getting toward the stories, being able to reference multiple, knowing the dynamics of what happened. So to say, the other day, someone was telling me his condo was going to be worth 1.8 because the condo right up the street had sold for 1.8. And I was able to say, it wasn't my deal at all, but I was able to say, look, the buyer of that condo didn't look at it. He came from London. He had missed out on 4 properties here. He has kids starting at Harvard. He was desperate and not resource constrained. So he made a market clearing offer, but it's not representative of the market. So when you know the stories, it's so compelling and people believe you. And I think part of the stories and knowing the stories goes back to the relationships with brokers. So being able to have these conversations, call up 3 random brokers during a week and say, hey, how's your week going? What's happening? Did you hear what happened on that deal? Why is that one still sitting on the market? And, you get this incredibly valuable information that over time you put the pieces together and you're able to tell stories to clients and they know that you're a market expert.
Exactly. Oh, I love it, because then they start, I'll go to dinner with friends and I think I'm just going to dinner, and literally, like, at some point everybody turns to me and they're asking me, well, Jere, what's going on with this one? And what's going on with that one? And what's going on? Because they know I know, and it's great. So if you're in a phase in your career where you don't know, learn it, because they get used to you knowing, and you just build instant credibility. So, and they don't even know yet, but somewhere in the back of their minds, they know that you're their agent. And when they do hire you, and the clients you do have, they trust you, which if they can't trust you, you can't help them. But it's huge, and if you don't know, find out. And it's great to get to a point every once in a while, I don't know. And it's okay now. Or you're at the dinner table and everybody else is giving you information and you're picking it up. But just keeping in mind. But I love it. Like, everybody, like, there have been times where, like, 4 people, like, turn and they're like, yeah, like, tell us, Jere. And I'm like, okay, please let me know the story behind this one. And I usually do. Yeah. But yeah, it's great. And so I'm just reading some notes that we took when we talked earlier. You just said, be good at your job, know the market, turn data into information, be able to market yourself, and then spend money was the other one. But tell us a little bit more about marketing yourself.
So that's probably my an area I really need to improve at. I think I've been very focused on sort of obsessively servicing our clients, and about 90% of our business comes from referrals from that client base and from that sphere I was talking about. And I really need to start thinking about how to push the message more broadly, in a way that we start doing more random business. That's been picking up over the past few years. And one way in which we've gotten a lot of exposure is through Facebook advertising. I mean, I hope to God people don't stop using Facebook, because it is the most amazing way to be able to, like, not creepily, but target people who have the right level of income, the right interest in real estate, they live in the right location, such that they're really they're not only the right people for you to put the message out to, but they're happy to hear it.
Exactly.
And
it's amazing. It's underutilized too, which is probably fortunate for us. Because it's one great way to differentiate yourself. I know we won't. We'll edit that out. Just kidding.
What about you, Jere? How do you get your? Do you?
She's turning the table on me here, people. No, go ahead. Yeah, I love this topic. Though I do that. I do a lot of Facebook. I do videos, Facebook advertising. We push out videos. We reposition homes. We refresh. We constantly keep it, but we don't really. We have videos. We have some cute testimonial videos. I don't know if you've seen them. Matthew Ferrara actually has put some of them out when he speaks, with people talking about me, and some of them are funny. We'll do different, we do all kinds of cute stuff, but really that's almost just for fun. I find that it's the listings and the content that we have that probably is a better way to market yourself than anything.
I think the fun stuff is where you get to see sort of the authentic side of you. And I haven't seen the testimonials they're talking about. I'm going to Google them when we get off of this. But I think I'm just so fascinated when I put something on Facebook or Instagram that's a little bit more like behind the scenes, not polished, how much more traction it gets.
Well, people like raw. People really love the raw, and sometimes I have a hard time with that because I want everything to be pretty.
I know, me too.
And high quality. I don't want anybody to think I'm going to market their house that way. But yeah, I mean, we'll do videos where Matthew Ferrara made a big deal on that topic. The reason why he's used several of my videos in his speeches, but one of them was because it was so authentic. I have different versions, and there's one video where we take all of the parts of the videos where people are laughing and saying funny things and making jokes about me, and there's just a stream of those, and there's even one of me laughing, and he did that because it was like, look, like Jere's, just don't be afraid to be yourself. Like, people hire you for you, not because you're pretending to be anything else. They want that connection, and they want to feel like they know you and they can connect with you and you're approachable. So we do that.
I think that's such a cool idea. I can't wait to check it out.
Thank you. And then we've got some that are a little more serious, and you'll see. But yeah, that's what we do. And I've actually even backed off because I was like, okay, the marketing can't be all about me. It needs to be about the content and about our listings. And we hone in on that too because we're pretty specific in the properties that we list, being most of them are in Buckhead and Brookhaven because our clients are moving between. So it's like that whole thing about you said, like being very specific in what you do and who your client is. So I love this mistake, and I mean not this mistake. I'm giving away the question. I love this question because so many people are kind of I feel like a lot of people are like, well, how do we approach this, or how do I make sure I get the message across the right way? But what is your biggest mistake or failure as a realtor, and how did you overcome it?
Sure. So I think two pop to mind. One is simple to talk about because it was so straightforward. It was an error that cost me about $150,000.
Wow, yeah.
It was a really simple error. Clients I'd been working with for about 4 years, buyers, high-end buyers, had found a house that what the client said to me was he has a personal relationship. It's true, a very close friend of the seller's. And he said very apologetically that he was going to put together an off-market deal with the seller. And I was super bummed, but they did it. And I learned after the fact, like just after a P&S had been signed, that in fact the house had been listed with an agent. So I easily could have stepped in and said, look, it's listed with an agent, he's paying a commission anyway, so let me represent you as a buyer.
Yeah.
Instead, the other agent got the full commission. And
that's where agent relationships come in handy too.
Yeah, it was an agent not from our area, and so that it does make a big difference. And that was like 2 years of college, right, out the window. But
yeah, that hurt. Yeah.
It did hurt, and there was no real good way to spin it that it wasn't just a simple error. And it was. So, however, knowing that was just absolute fuel and passion for not getting back at the situation, but like, okay, if I didn't get that one, here's my 30 seconds. I got to dig in deep and make this year a success, because to my mind, I just lost $150,000. And so I did. I just grinded it out, cranked, and my sales that year were up 30%, best year ever, up 30% over the prior year. And I swear to you, that wouldn't have happened if that deal had come together.
Wow.
So anyway, so that was one. And then the other one was sort of a little bit of a longer story, but when, try not to make it too long. We have 4 kids. We have 2 sets of twins. And when I was pregnant with our second set, I was about 5 years in the business, 4 years in the business. My business had been growing steadily, and I really was sort of feeling on top of it when I went on maternity leave, thinking, you know, I'm really getting good at this, and I have a good client base, and it's growing. It felt like there was some momentum. And I went out on maternity leave for 4 months, and I came back. Oh, and by the way, that was 2009. The stock market had crashed.
Yeah.
We had 2 more kids to feed. And when I came back, my pipeline was dead, like crickets, nothing. And it was so amazing, just a huge wake-up call that this business doesn't wait for you. Like, if you're not constantly tending to your pipeline and your sphere and putting new deals, nurturing new deals, even 2-3 years out, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
And that was a moment where I panicked, but the panic was like the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I think I had been a little precious about real estate before that, thinking it sort of came easily, and I'm selling here and there and doing like sort of white glove service, nice work. And when I got to that point with no business at all, 4 kids, half our money gone in the stock market, it got really unsexy really quickly. It got gritty and dirty, and I would take on any business and scrap around for, the gnarliest condo in the worst neighborhood. And it...
I remember that in 2009. I did the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Turned to such a...
It was insane.
And pushed the business forward. And I feel now like so incredibly grateful to have gone through that terrifying time. Because I don't think I'd be where I am.
We wouldn't appreciate our business. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have specialized, and I actually, as a result of the recession, I just kind of sold like whatever, wherever. And between that, I was in a similar situation to you, and I was pregnant with our first son, who's now 8, when Greg, my husband, decided that he was going to stop. He was going to and it was necessary because of the market. He was a developer with someone else's money, and he was going to move out of that and be a broker in commercial real estate. Like, they don't make money for 5 years. They make our jobs look easy. And I'm a pregnant real estate agent. But it made me just hone in. Well, at first I was doing the crazy deals, and I was like, I can't go out here and have babies and sell houses all over Metro Atlanta for $200,000. I mean, I loved it, but I was like, I've got to hone in. I've got to up the price point. I live next to houses that are big and pretty. I've got to make friends with those people and make them my clients. And just hone in and focus and do it. And it's amazing how when there's a Frank Lloyd quote about it that I can never remember. I'd have to look it up again because it's a great one, but it talks about how limitations are what are the best opportunities for us to really make something big and use our imagination and make it happen. But I mean, it's right back to what you said. So having 4 children and you're a power broker and you're married, and I think your wife also, is she a big worker, or how do you do, how do you balance things? How do you do this?
Yeah. So my wife she's in school now, so not working outside the home, but still, pretty focused on school. And with the kids, I think probably the number one thing that helped me that I didn't have originally, but really have worked to form, is boundaries. And we always joke, one of the best things we did with our kids, one of our best like parenting accomplishments is somehow we convinced all of our kids that in our house, people don't come out of their rooms until 7 a.m. And it works. I see my friends have kids that are like, oh, my kid wakes up at 5:30. We realized early on that if they had the choice between being with us or being in their room alone, of course they'd want to be with us. We're super fun. But if it's not a choice, they go back to sleep. And so for their whole lives, I have what I call the hour of power, which is I get up 4:45 to 5:15, shower, get a coffee, and sit down and just crank for at least 1 hour. Sometimes I get 2 hours out of it. And I know very predictably that I'm going to hear their little bedroom doors creaking right at 7 a.m. and their little feet come down the stairs, and I'm ready and I'm excited. But I find I'm sort of at my worst when I'm trying to do two things at the same time with the kids. It's just a recipe for like I get short-tempered and cranky, and I can feel my stress is sort of disproportionately high when I'm trying to like answer an email and be with kids at the same time. So really having like firm boundaries between when I'm working and when I'm with the kids. And I think it's the greatest blessing of kids is that they make you so bloody present. So hard to think of anything else while you're and taking care of them. So I think in our work, in the absence of kids or something else that demands that kind of presence, it's easy to be thinking about work all the time. In fact, I feel like so grateful to have this demand from the kids. Obviously, I love spending time with them, but it gives me a whole, mental break from the work for those times that I'm really focused on them.
That's great. So it's really just setting that it sounds to me like your biggest, if you had to wrap it up into one thing, it's having that power hour from 6 to 7 a.m. in the morning, having that power hour, and then having your time with your kids at 7. And then what ages are they? I'm assuming they're in school.
They're in school. So 2 8-year-olds and 2 13-year-olds.
So so then you, from that to getting them to school, and then and do you
then it's work, and I don't stop until 6, really, no matter what happens, unless there's something specific I need to go do with the kids.
Okay.
And it all gets fit in there. And I also find that clients are pretty, like, if the hour is 6 o'clock p.m. and they don't get a response until 8, they're okay with it. Like, that makes sense. And very few things are, hair on fire urgent. But I think it can feel that way if you let it feel that way.
Exactly.
That everything needs right now.
Well, everybody's intense. Everybody's emotional. What is it? When real estate, we're dealing with people's money, their home, and their family. I mean, the 3 most emotional, intense things that we could be dealing with.
So true.
Yeah, I love Shen's speech on that, about the whole, we won't go there, but about how things can seem so much more intense because of our wiring and being people. But I'll take us down another path if I'm not careful with that.
Well, that's okay. But I always think about that when we're dealing with clients, they're dealing with one deal, right? And it's taking up their lives. Whereas we deal with, 10, 15 deals at a time.
Exactly.
I really honor that and bring the presence and focus to them when I'm with them or talking to them. To, let it fill my whole world too. Just to sort of be where they are, because it is intense and difficult when you're going through it as a seller or a buyer.
Exactly, and it's important that I think there's an ability that certain people have, or that we need to develop to just, when whoever you're with, be with them, and then when you're not with your clients, your kids, be with them, which obviously you're really good at, and just being able to, I would say, and I would love to know what you think about this, because I think it's a little bit of both. It's being present with people in your life when they're with you, but there's also a matter of, you're kind of always a real estate agent. Like, I go to dinner with friends, but my friends are very often my clients. I mix that a lot. My friends become my friends oftentimes after they're my clients, because they usually cross over because I'm so focused in on the business that I do and where it is. But in doing that, it becomes very efficiently productive because I'm not trying to go dinner with these people, but do business with these people because I have to be balanced. And now I'm really getting spread out. But it's like allowing it to blend, and that balances out a little bit. Do you have this, or is that kind of how you do it, or what's your experience?
Yeah, it's similar. I think I run into like an internal conflict where I don't want my friends to feel like I'm looking at them like clients, because I truly don't. And, clients should become friends. That's what leads it, is the fun of being together and really enjoying them. And the fact that business comes from that is awesome, but secondary to that. And I think it's funny how do your friends always say, like, I don't want to make you talk shop.
Oh, they do, and then we do it anyway, because they can tell I'm having fun. And that's why they love, when you love what you do and they know I love it. Or my favorite is, I have a friend who's a client, and she always goes, and this is like, it's funny because this is like every real estate agent's dream, but we live in the same neighborhood, of course, because I sold her a house, and she always talks about me. She'll go, my real estate agent, Jere Metcalf. And they're like, well, aren't you guys like friends too? Does that upset her? And she's like, and she even said to me, like, I didn't even realize I'd do that, because we are friends first. But, like, you're my real estate agent, and we've done so much together. And I'm like, oh, no, you keep it up. So now we just laugh about it. And now she, like, makes a point to say it. And but it's kind of, the business thing becomes a friend thing. And if you can't, for me, I know a lot of people argue with this, but the way that I feel, and the way that we protect our clients and take care of our clients in a residential, especially for residential real estate, is very much a relationship and a friendship that I wouldn't, like, and I'm friends with them on a level that I love and embrace that I wouldn't be otherwise. Like, so it's the opposite of what I think a lot of people might assume.
Yeah, and I think, like, as an adult, you don't get so many opportunities to make new friends like you do through your kids and parents of your kids. Once that's over, I just feel like we're so lucky that we're constantly coming in contact with new people, and I firmly believe that, like, the people who find me, for whatever reason, my energy resonates with them, and then usually it's true in reverse. And I have a friend in the market. His name's Charles. He and I are so different, and he's a phenomenal broker, but he is like just super, like, disciplined, type A, very deliberate in everything he says, and he attracts a wonderful group of clients, but they're just like him. And I attract a wonderful group of clients, and they're just like me. So it makes sense. The people who come to you and find you, there's a connection there that often, turns into a really lovely friendship. And some people don't want that, which is totally fine. But I
think they're crazy. I think it's the best thing ever. Yeah, and I think it just makes just like a great business plan too, because it's efficient and fun. So, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, wow, this is fun, because we've been talking for a few minutes. So we're getting to the end of this, though. Hopefully, I think you're good, because you're in Philadelphia right now and visiting family. What were you going to say?
Oh, nothing. I'm fine.
Oh, so a few more questions. One is, what is kind of your favorite tool in the business, other than your cell phone? And maybe that's not, but I think that's probably everybody's most efficient tool. But other than that, what was there a CRM, or what do you prefer to use in your business?
I'm like a big tech nerd. I try.
Oh, good. The good question for you.
Every single tool out there that I can get my hands on. I think I drive my team crazy, because I'm always like, hey, maybe we should try this one. Maybe we should try that.
I do a little bit of that too. I love it. They're like, can we just stick to one thing? I'm like, but it's shiny and pretty, and it could be better. Yeah. So what is yours?
But when I come back to it, and I know every region's MLS is different, but I think our MLS is such an incredibly robust tool that people don't use as much as they could. It doesn't necessarily look pretty, but the access it gives us to data, to be able to slice and dice parts of the market, pull out specific types of property, to look at one data set that really gives you information about the type of property you're looking at, whether you're representing a buyer or a seller, and trying to understand value. I spend a lot of time with my team we just call it like MLS boot camp. So we sit down and we try to solve a problem. So to say, okay, is the $500,000 to $700,000 condo market and and it's almost like a speed
Wait,
race.
stop
Like,
for a
who
second.
can come up with
Stop.
the answer
Wait,
first?
wait, wait, stop for a second. So, did that, she would let her, sorry, you totally broke up. Like, I couldn't even tell you. So start over with that. So you were talking about you and your team get together, and then about the 700, and then you broke up. So go ahead, do that again. Sorry.
That's okay. So the one thing our team we love to do together is we call it like MLS boot camp. So we get together and we think of a problem. Maybe the problem is our one-bedroom condos with elevators, has there been market appreciation over the past 3 years or not? And it's almost like a race to the finish. Like we all try to, get together, and then you have to both have an answer, and you have to have data to support your answer. And it's just 4 of us, we're just banging it away, and we think it's so much fun. So, but it makes us very facile with the technology.
Yeah. So,
life problem, the client asking you a question, it's so easy to be able to come up with the answers. And I think people can spend a lot of time getting the most out of their MLS.
What a great point, because
so
there are
it's a boring answer, but I think it's important.
We have the same thing. We have so many tools that we have, like, I think there are 5 or 6, or maybe whoever's listening is thinking, no, Jere, there's like 12, but we have so many tools that we can utilize. And when I hear you talk about that, I think, okay, there's some great content to put out on social media or your blogs. Do you do any of that when you guys do that, or what do you guys do for your social media blogs? We ought to take that exercise and get an article out there on it. That's good stuff.
It's really,
we need to do that.
Like, wonder how many things we all do that would be valuable to share, or that just, you're in the middle of it, you're doing it, you don't think about it. It would be great to it's what partly is so valuable about our Sotheby's network and having this group of 40 of us just getting to talk about this stuff, and you saying, hey, what about putting that out there? I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but it hadn't occurred to me.
Exactly. I love that. So what is a book that you would, if you recommended one book to us to read, what would it be?
Oh gosh, I read so many funny books, from everything like self-help to current fiction to everything in between. But I think I'm really into decision science, behavioral economics, that kind of thing. I think I was a psych major in college, and I think it's fascinating how people make decisions. And economics is rooted in this idea that human beings are rational, are going to make rational economic decisions. And we know we're like the front lines of that being a crazy concept, because there's no rational human in real estate. Like, it's all tied up with emotions and everything else. And I think so the field of behavioral economics really talks about, instead of there being a rational actor, talks about what are the elements of decision making that go in. And so there are a bunch of books in there. I would say one is, I think it's called Influence by Robert Cialdini. I love that. It really talks about some of the basic foundations for how we make decisions. Everything from understanding the role of reciprocity in our interactions, to anchoring, how powerful anchoring is. My friend, a guy I really respect and admire is Dan Ariely. He's out of Duke University. He's a behavioral scientist. He wrote a book with a high school friend of mine named Jeff Chrysler, and their book is called Dollars and Cents.
Okay.
And it's really good. I mean, for real estate, it's a wonderful one to read. And the third one I'll mention that I think is phenomenal is called something like Priceless, and it talks about how nothing really has a true value, and value is an arbitrary concept. And it's so true in our business. There's so much out of that book. I wish I could pull it out now and read a couple passages.
So Priceless so we've got Influence, Dollars and Cents, and Priceless, but Priceless might be the one.
Yeah, it's probably the densest of the 3. So for a more, I think...
It sounds very relevant. Like when people say, well, what is my house worth? I'm like, well, that depends on so many things.
Super relevant. So anybody who likes that kind of thing, Priceless is terrific.
Awesome. So, last question. One thing that you would have, or everybody listening to this, remember, if there is just one, they need to remember, what is it?
So, such a hard question, but I'll answer very simply. We have a big, beautiful print in my office that's just our team motto, which is work hard and be nice to people. And I think that's what everything boils down to. Like, do those two things, you'll be pretty successful in this business.
Yeah. Let's talk about simplify it. I mean, well said. Work hard. Are you working hard? Are you being nice to people? That's it.
Kind of. That's the shooting match.
Lauren, awesome. Thank you so much. It's been great having you.
This was fun. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love listening to your podcast.